When you watch the Georgia Bulldogs offense this season, you're going to see a lot of new. There are a lot of newcomers. There's a lot of new faces that are going to be starters, from the quarterback to the offensive line to the wide receivers to the running backs. It's just going to be a lot different than 2025. And the thing about the 2024 team was it a very good team? Yes, in college football context, it was a very good team, won 11 games. Did it bring home trophies? Yeah, they won the SEC championship. Was the offense and were the offensive weapons good enough to win a national championship? No. So, yes to a handful of those things, but to the ultimate goal and to the ultimate question, the answer for the Georgia Bulldogs was no, it's not good enough. Will the 2025 Georgia offense feature a weaponry, for lack of a better word, an offensive weapon room that are better than last year, good enough to win a national championship? Are these championship caliber weapons? That's my question. I'm going to talk about it. We're going to kind of go through memory lane here. I think the last 10 or 15, look, for me, my college football memory is about, 17-ish years, something like that, maybe a little bit less. And I think we've seen all sorts of great offenses make its championships, win national championships. So you kind of know, hey, you got to be that talented for the most part to get there and to win it. Are we going to see that with Georgia's offense in 2025? Ryan Curley from Dawg Post trying to answer that question for you. All the links you need down below, including the Dawg Post newsletter in the description of this video. Make sure you're checking that out. Make sure you're checking out dawgpost.com, the written site. Not all of the content is the same, and sometimes it's far more detailed over there on the actual website, dawgpost.com. So make sure you are checking that out. It's important to us, and it's important that you sign up for the newsletter. I appreciate that. Zachariah Branch, Noah Thomas, Dylan Bell, Oscar Delp, Lawson Lucky, Jaden Riddell, Colby Young, London Humphreys, Nate Frazier, Josh McCray, Roger Robinson, Cash Jones, Chauncey Bowens. Those are Georgia's weapons. Now, I didn't name everybody, right? Maybe freshman Bo Walker gets out there. Maybe Sokovie White makes it. Maybe one of Georgia's freshman receivers fights for playing time. I do think Georgia is in a much better position at the wide receiver spot than it was in the past. But that's kind of the group that you're getting. And will that cut it? Right? Gunnar Stockton is going to be Gunnar Stockton. I don't know if he's a superstar or not. I'd lean towards not. But I do think he's good enough to win games for Georgia. And we've seen you don't have to have a superstar quarterback to win national championships. J.J. McCarthy was not a superstar. I don't care how good he ends up potentially being for the Minnesota Vikings. He was not a superstar at Michigan. Stetson Bennett in 2021, not a superstar, got closer to that in 2022. A.J. McCarron was pretty damn good. I don't know if he was a superstar, but he was pretty damn good, and those Alabama teams were quite stacked. Was Nick Marshall a superstar when Auburn lost the national championship to Jameis Winston, right? So the quarterback is not what I'm talking about here as I get off on that tangent. It's the offensive weapon room. Well, what do you think about Georgia's with Branch, Dylan Bell, Noah Thomas, Nate Frazier, Oscar Delp, Lawson Lucky, those being kind of your featured guys? Is that good enough? Kind of imagining that obviously Georgia is one of the best coaching staffs and arguably the best coach in college football, and a defense that will probably be good, right? Because you don't expect the Georgia defense to fall off a cliff, even though they lost a lot of production. Ohio State 2024. It's not that good. All right, Jeremiah Smith, best receiver in college football. Emeka Egbuka, one of the best receivers in college football. Cardinal Tate, a very good wide receiver. You think about the running back duo they had, and Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. It was the best running back duo in college football. So think about Ohio State. That was a championship level, and they won the national championship. It was a championship level offensive weapon room. Notre Dame didn't quite have that. They did have Jeremiah Love, who I think is a championship level weapon. Texas, who came in third, fourth, essentially. Penn State. Good running backs for Penn State. Couple good receivers for Texas, but you get my point. it was Ohio State who was stacked across the board, but specifically had the best offensive weapon room in college football. They won. They won the whole thing. 2023. This one doesn't quite as much apply with the Michigan Wolverines, as that was a defense that carried it for sure, but had definitely a star running back in Blake Corum. When you score over 20 rushing touchdowns, it's hard to argue that you are not a star. So, yeah, they do have some of that, but not quite. That was a team that relied a lot on very, very talented defense. A lot of really good players. A couple that just got drafted pretty high in the NFL draft a couple of weeks ago. 2022, Georgia. Brock Bowers, Lab McConkey, A.D. Mitchell, Kenny McIntosh, right? That was a championship weapon group for sure. When you talk about one of the greatest college football tight ends ever, talk about Lab McConkey, who was an X factor for Georgia. Talk about A.D. Mitchell, the clutch gene, right? Kenny McIntosh was an underrated back. 2021 Georgia, yes, you can argue the defense carried to an extent, one of the best college football defenses of all time, but they had, George Pickens, who didn't play till the end, but he was there. A.D. Mitchell again, Brock Bowers again, Lab McConkey again, James Cook and Zamir White. These are NFL football players, right? Those are championship weapons. You kind of get my drift with this. Do Georgia's weapons compare to that? Do they compare to 2020 Bama with Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle and Najee Harris? That was legit. It had the Heisman winner on it. Does it compare to 2019 LSU? Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Terrace Marshall, Thaddeus Moss. That was a stacked offense. 2018, Georgia and Bama, right? In that national championship? No. Clemson won that. Travis Etienne, right? They had those types of weapons. 2017 was Bama and Georgia. Who was in the national championship? Nick Chubb and Sony Michel. Alabama, Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, all those dudes, right? You catch my drift. I don't know if this weapon room is as good as that, or any of those rooms, to be honest. It's probably on par or better than Michigan's in 2023. I don't know if it's quite on par with any of the rest of them, but Georgia's offensive weapons, to me, is an improved room than last year. I think when you look at Georgia's tight ends, Oscar Delp has just as much experience as any tight end across the country and played in a national championship game a few years ago and is a national champion and now a two-time SEC champion who is returning to Georgia for personal unfinished business and for Georgia unfinished business. Lawson Lucky, who might be more talented than him, is going to be out there just as much. Nate Frazier is taking a step forward into year 2 after playing a very good bit in his freshman season. He's expected to be the borderline 5-star running back that he was recruited to be. They brought in Zachariah Branch, dynamic weapon. Dylan Bell's been around for a long time, a versatile weapon. They've got jump ball guys in Kobe Young and Noah Thomas. Behind them, I think London Humphreys, Sokovie White, Talon Taylor, Jeremy Bell. That's pretty good wide receiver depth. So, yeah, this is a really good offensive weapon room on paper when you look at it. Could it be good enough to win the national championship is the question. You start to look around the country. Texas has some pretty good weapons, Ryan Wingo being probably number 1. You can make the argument that Georgia's overall group is better. Ohio State, they'll still have Jeremiah Smith. They'll have some really good receivers. It won't be quite the same. It'll still be really good. Penn State, you'll have the running back duo in Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. Oregon, you'll still have Evan Stewart, but you lost a lot on offense, specifically Jordan James and Tez Johnson, 2 really important pillars to them. So when I look around the country, you start to wonder, well, Georgia's offensive weapons might be just as good as everyone else. Then you start to say, hey, if this defense is good, if Gunnar Stockton does his job and helps this offense improve on the down year it had in 2024, why can't Georgia be right back where it was a couple of seasons ago, having a top 10 offense in college football and competing for national championships? It didn't really compete for a national championship last year, but that was something that the Dogs were getting used to. I think looking far ahead, Georgia does have championship level weapons, but we obviously are going to have to wait and see how they perform. Thank you for watching.